Hello, today we're going to make a video on how to create a self-grading quiz in Google Forms from a spreadsheet. Okay, so let's get at it. Let's open up Google Sheets. Here I have a pretty standard Google Sheet to create a test with. I have some question text, some types of question, answers, correct answers, points, so on. What I want to do is make a self-grading quiz that I can push out to students. So first, let's talk about what a self-grading quiz in Google Forms means for those of us out there that may not be really familiar with Forms and maybe just learning it. So let's open up a blank Google form. So this is what you'd see when you first open Google Forms for the first time. This is blank, no information, no anything. So a self-grading form is one in which Google Forms will automatically score your responses when a student submits their test. Students can see their scores immediately. There's no waiting for a teacher to grade it, which is nice. But it does require a little bit of work, and you'll have to go through and type in your questions, set up possible answers for a multiple choice question, let's say. You'll have to assign point values. You'll have to write down, or you have to log if it's required, things like that. So normally you're going to have to click into each question in Google Forms and set that answer key manually. And that takes a long time, especially if you have a quiz with 15 or 20 questions in it. SheetFormR is going to do that all from your spreadsheet in one click in about, for something like this, about 20 seconds or so. But let's take a look on how I would do that manually. So the first thing here is, again, this is your default settings, your default screen. The first thing I'm going to want to do is come up here into settings and change this to a quiz. So I will toggle that. And when I did that, you notice that I had a bunch of options open up. And I can change these however I want. Again, they go away when I turn the quiz off. When I turn the quiz mode on, they come back on. So here, this is just saying how you're going to get students' grades back to them. So you can do it immediately after each submission. So in other words, when they turn the test in, they pretty much get the results instantly. So they know what their grade is, they know what questions they missed. Or you can do it later after a manual review. So if you want to be in control of when they get their assessment back. So for example, I teach elementary school, so I don't have to worry about a student from a second period class, sharing answers with another student, his buddy, in a sixth period class, like a middle school or a high school. So I don't have to worry about that. So if I was a high school teacher, I might do this manual review and maybe send out all results the next morning, or that at the end of the day or something like that. But I teach elementary school, so I'm going to do it right. I always have it immediate. So the moment, like I said, the moment the students turn their test in, they get their results back. And these are just other options that you can have. So can the students see what questions they missed? Yes or no? Okay, I have that on. Can they see what the correct answer was on every question, even if they got it right or wrong? And so I have that on. And then point values, they can see how many points they got for each question. So therefore they can see what their total score is. Questions default at 1 point. You can change that either here, or you can change that here when you're setting that up, or you can change it in SheetFormR right here under this points column, depending on how you're going to do this. And then you have other options down here for responses, verified for emails or input. Verified means they're going to get basically their email will be filled in for them, and they just have to click a box to say yes, that's me. Or responder input, they will have to type their email in manually. Like I said, I teach elementary school, so having all the kids type their email in manually is sometimes an adventure. So I always have it as verified, so they don't have to actually type anything. So I leave that like that. And then you could go through the rest of these. I'm not going to go through all these other settings because I don't mess with them, but you could play with them if you'd like to. So let's go back to my questions. So if I'm creating a test here, I'm going to have to type in a question. What is the name of the camp that Stanley is sent to? Okay, so I'm using information from the book Holes, and there's my question. So now I'm going to have to come up with answer options. And let's say camp happy, maybe camp, I think it's Green Lake, if I remember right. Camp Green Lake. Let's say camp good kids. And whenever I'm doing something like this, I try to come up with something that's local here. So I'm going to say there's a lake here called Shaver Lake. I'm going to go with Camp Shaver Lake. So I have my answers there, and I can go to the answer key, and I need to choose one of these as the correct answer. That's it right there. It lights up in green. It puts the check mark next to it, and that's just indicating that Google Forms knows that this is the correct answer, and if a student chooses this, they get that 1 point. If they don't get that 1 point, of course. Okay, so boom, I'm done. Not too bad. Took about, I don't know, 2 minutes to do that whole thing. And then I will go and add more and more and more and more questions. And then I'll have to go through and do the same thing for all of these questions, depending on how many I'm going to have. I am not going to do it that way. This is the whole purpose of having SheetFormR. This is the whole purpose that I built it, because I don't want to do all that. The other thing I could do here real quick before I leave is give this a title. I will say, let's say something like quiz for Holes novel. And then I'm going to want to change the title name or the file name when it gets saved in my drive, so that way I can actually know what it looks like and not just have a bunch of new form files. I can put a description here if I want to. I can add images here by adding an image. Go back to settings. I could change, where is it? I could shuffle the order of the questions. I could show a progress bar, all these other options right here. However, I can do all of that right from my spreadsheet. I don't have to go into Google Forms at all to do any of that. So let's do it that way, since that's what I'm making this video for. So I have this spreadsheet set up. I have different types of questions here, from multiple choice, true, false, short answer, paragraphs, checkboxes, my question text, the possible answers, and the correct answer, how many points each is worth, a little bit of help I think might, for each question, and are they required? Yes. So I'm going to create a form off of this really quick. So I'm going to open up SheetFormR. We'll open it in compact mode. I have my Holes spreadsheet selected right now. That's the one that's open. So that's the one it's going to map. If you don't understand the mapping, let's talk about it really quick. I did this in another video on how to set up your spreadsheet, but we'll do it really quick. I'll give you a 30-second overview. What happens here is I have these headers, and it says title, question type, question text. That's what SheetFormR is looking to take that and fill out all the stuff we just did manually. It's going to do it automatically. So you can see it mapped that. Form title is in column A. The question number is in column C right here. Question type, what type of question is it? That's in column B. And then the question text is in column D. Now, you don't have to have your spreadsheet set up exactly like I have. So when you make your spreadsheets, or you download a spreadsheet from a friend or from the internet, or however you're getting them from, if I have my headers and my columns set up differently, then it will still work fine, because it's not just looking for something static that's there permanently. It is constantly looking. Every time I push that map button, it is looking for whatever arrangement you have right now. So let's go ahead and clear this out, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to start all over. So now nothing's mapped. If I was to try to build this form, SheetFormR has no idea where any information is, because I haven't told it. But I'm going to run it automatically. I could do it manually too. I could go and say, oh, okay, form title is in column A. There it is right there. And I can choose it if I want to, but of course, who wants to do that? So I'm going to run the auto map. It takes about, 4 or 5 seconds normally. So there it goes. And it mapped everything for me. So it shows that my answer A option is in column D. And here it is right here. Let me just close that a little bit. So here it is right here. And my answer B option is in column E. And here it is right here. And the help text is in column H. And column H is right here. Here is my help text. And now notice I don't have help text for every single question. That's fine. I can if I want, but I don't. And then is it required, and so on. I'm not going to go through each one. So all of that, it gets mapped automatically. You don't have to pay extra for that. It's all part of it. So I'm ready to build this form. I have options here. I'm not going to use any of these for right now. We'll do that in another video on build options. And I'm going to go ahead and create this. And remember how long it took to do that manually. Now this is going to do this in with a pretty good internet connection and a decent, at least like a school laptop computer. I would say probably something like this, maybe 20 seconds. That should be about the average. I mean, of course, if your internet is really bad, it's going to take a little longer. Okay, so we built this in 17.3 seconds. And I open my new form, and here it is. It's all ready to go. So all those things that I was doing manually are done for me. Also, one other thing that SheetFormR does for me that Google Forms will not do, no matter what settings you go to. There are no settings for it. There's not a setting to add question numbers. So when you come back to your assessment, this is what a student would look at. You notice there's no question numbers here, and that's fine when there's only 1 or 2 questions. But when I have a test with 20 questions and I have a student say, number 14, I don't know, I don't get it, I think it's wrong. I have to count and scroll 1, 2, 3, scroll down to go find number 14. It's really a hassle. That's one of the reasons that I added that feature here. And how did I do that? All I did was make sure that this include question number, this was toggled. It was turned on, and that added the question numbers automatically. I didn't have to do anything. So here's my assessment. This is a self-grading assessment. And you'll notice if I go to settings, I have all the same things we talked about. Now these settings right here, unfortunately, Google does not allow anybody to change these programmatically. So you have to do this manually. So I have to do that every time as well. So I always just come through and change all this really quick. You can change the default right here to verified. Oh, it should have done it. So I just changed that real quick, and now this is ready to push out to students. So let's do that, and let's see how I'm going to publish that, and then I can push this out to students. There's a couple different ways you can get this to students. You can email it to them, or you can push it onto their Google Classroom. And I'm not going to work with Classroom in this video. Let's just work on the email part in case that's the way you want to do it, or use some other means that you have at your school to do that. So what I'm going to go is to this share right here, and I have a couple of just kind of set up Google accounts for this, and I'm going to go ahead and type those in. There's my test student, and then I'll do that maps account. And if you notice here, I have responder. That's what I want. I don't want somebody who's an editor. I don't want my students going in and editing the test as we go. I've done that before. I'm going to stick with responder, and I'm going to send that out. Now, here is one of the accounts that I just sent that to, and you can see that they get this assessment, and here it is. It's 10 questions. And so we're going to open that in Google Forms. And this is what your students would see exactly right here. They would have their email here, and then they just say, yep, that's me by clicking that. And then they're going to go through and answer this. So what is the reason he sent to camp? I don't remember. I think he stole some shoes. False. Dig holes. I have no idea what his last name is. I'm just going to go with Jones. Who is the warden of Camp Green Lake? Mr. Sir, I believe. Man, it's been a long time since I read this. Which of the following are nicknames? Okay, I know Stink Squid, Zero, and X-Ray, if I remember right. What does he find? Let's go with a gold coin. I'm not sure that's right. have no idea. And then what is Zero's name? I'm going to go with, I have no idea, Hector Zeroni. Okay, so now this is done. You can see that the submit button came up and now I can click it. And the reason why is because I answered everything. Remember, all of these were required. So until everything had an answer, I wouldn't be able to turn it in, which is what I want as a teacher. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that. And real quick, take a look. There's no responses right here. Let me go back and press submit. And I'll go back to there and you can see that response came through. And so this is what we mean by self-grading. It grades it automatically. Oh man, I did terrible. I got 6 out of 11 and I could break that down here, or I can open up a Google Sheet with it. Oops, no, sorry. And it will break that down for me a little bit more. Show me which ones you got correct, or which ones I got correct, which ones I got wrong, the date I submitted it, and the time I submitted it, the email I was tied to when I turned it in. So that's pretty cool. I can also do that from SheetFormR, and a little bit more actually, but I'm not going to do that in this video. I have a feature over here called Create Roster Status, and what that will do is open a spreadsheet down here, and I can import my classroom roster if I'm using Google Classroom with all my students for that particular period or that class that I have set up. And it will do most of that same stuff a little bit more. So check a video for that. And that way I never really even have to leave this Google Sheet environment right here. I can have my test, my response sheet, my roster, everything on one little sheet, right? Or yeah, one little sheet with these separate tabs, and be able to control each assessment. And to me, that's the better way to do it. Obviously I built it that way, so I like it. But if you don't like that, you could always use the Google setup. Okay, I think that pretty much covers on what it is to create a Google Sheet that is self-grading. Okay, all right. Hey, thanks for watching.